think something that we sometimes as nurses we don't think about is we stay in our silos. It's not our problem, that's their problem, and it is our problem, and I'll tell you why. When we stay silent, that means we stay complicit. And when I say healthcare, I mean nurses in legislation, right? We need to have nurses in Congress. We need to have nurses at the legislative level so that our voices can be heard. But when you turn around and when you make cuts to bills that are going to affect millions of people, that's a problem. A video was shared with me, and it really makes me, it almost makes me sad. And I think this is what we've all been thinking, but no one will say it, right? So there was a video that was shared, and I'm going to let you guys watch the video here. And I want to know what your thoughts are, and leave it in the comments. Leave it in the comments what your thoughts are about this video, because this video clearly really discusses how right now our country, it wasn't, everyone said, oh, I voted for him because of the economy. This conversation that was had clearly, it's clear again what we've all been thinking, but no one wants to say it. We were not ready to vote for a woman of color. But listen, and I want to know your thoughts. So listen in and let's go from there.
Welcome to Nurses with Voices. I'm Dr. Lendra, your host and fellow nurse who's traded in burnout for breakthroughs. I'm here to show you how to transform your nursing career into one filled with purpose, reduced stress, and incredible opportunities. Whether you're looking to start your own business, build generational wealth, or simply find a healthier role in nursing, this podcast is for you. Join me to explore practical strategies to overcome burnout, combat bias, and chart new paths in nursing. It's time to reclaim your voice and reimagine your future in healthcare. Let's get started.
Welcome back to another episode of Nurses with Voices. I'm Dr. Lendra. From the Nurse Shift Change rally to viral social media confessions and even reality stars being pardoned, what do all of these stories say about confessions, accountability, and just the power in today's world? And more importantly, what do they mean for nurses who are ready to use their power and take their power back? I want to start off by talking about the Nurse Shift Change rally that took place this past Memorial Day weekend. And, it was a movement. It was a movement that nurses across the country came together and really united to stand for four essential topics in a climate where we have DEI being so weaponized. We have people in positions that have no business being there. And this is just really, truly a time for nurses to stand together and unify. And that's exactly what they did this past weekend. So when we talk about the unity for social justice, humanities, ethics, and the sciences, all of which that are under attack right now, and I think I've said that before, nurses are really starting to come together. I want to give you a little bit of history on Nurse Shift Change. And if you haven't already, head over to nurseshiftchange.com, because this is only the beginning. This is a movement, right? This wasn't just a rally. This is a movement. And what I mean is we really formed and came together as a grassroots effort looking at everything that was taking place. So when you think back earlier this year, when we had all of these executive orders coming out, and from a healthcare standpoint, we're sitting here like, whoa, what's happening? Like who is doing this? We quickly realized that we needed to come together on every level. And what was interesting was, I had a conversation with Dr. McCamey, and I guess she in turn had a conversation with her network, and we got on this call, and what started out with, I forget initially how many people were on the call, but this is something the people who remained within this group were committed, and everyone was committed. And the beauty is it did expand, and it expanded across the country. We had nurses from states such as Chicago, Seattle. They did a virtual rally. Washington, D.C. was the main rally point. Rochester, Atlanta and, San Diego, San Francisco. And if I missed anyone, please forgive me. Connecticut, Hartford, Connecticut. And the beauty of it is we started a movement. Now, the goal and the plan is next year is a Million Nurse March. And I want to know how many of you are going to stay silent, or are you going to stand with us? And the reason I bring this up, because I think something that we sometimes as nurses we don't think about is we stay in our silos. It's not our problem, that's their problem, and it is our problem, and I'll tell you why. When we stay silent, that means we stay complicit. There's two nurses in Congress who apparently voted for this bill to cut Medicare and Medicaid. Now, I won't go into all of the details. The point is, as a nurse, there's certain reasons why we want nurses in healthcare, because we do need nurses. And when I say healthcare, I mean nurses in legislation, right? We need to have nurses in Congress. We need to have nurses at the legislative level so that our voices can be heard. But when you turn around and when you make cuts to bills that are going to affect millions of people, that's a problem. And I think Dr. Sheldon Fields said it best during the rally. He said, we're living in a country where we have a system that is designed to keep people sick. Now, think about it. When you look at preventive care, now I own a wellness business. That's no secret. And my wellness business is more about preventive care. IV hydration, vitamin therapy, weight loss services, right? Wellness services. I don't accept insurance because it really makes sense for me as a business owner. There are people who have, their own businesses and they do accept insurance. But for me, it just wouldn't make sense for me economically. It wouldn't make sense for me accept insurance. However, my clients are those people who are all about their health, their wellness, and preventative care. And it's amazing about with the things that are not covered with preventive care. And I say that to say, think about how you pay into insurance just in case. Now, don't get me wrong. Now, are there preventive coverage plans on with insurance? Yes, there are plans. There are certain things that you get. You can have your annual mammograms, and there are things that you can get covered on a preventive basis, colonoscopies and such. So yes, don't get me wrong. But for the most part, the majority of insurance is paid on a reactionary basis. And what happens when people go into the hospital and they're sick? With a lot of the DRGs that you see, they basically group together patients, and hospitals are now paid based on the collective patients. So you go into a hospital and you get a pacemaker replaced, and I'm talking about pacemakers because my mother recently got hers. They're basically going to be paid based off a DRG, which is a diagnostic related group, right? It's a system that's used to pay for a hospital stay based off of a diagnosis or treatment. And that's what happens a lot of times in healthcare. But what if we could prevent people from getting sick? And I think that's the point where we have nurses who are caring for people who are sick. We have people who are being discharged home before they're well. And guess what? If the hospital's not going to pay, if the hospital's not going to be paid, then guess what? They got to go. My mother, she has insurance, and I'm wondering why they're like, oh, you can stay another night. You can stay another night. You can stay another night. You know why she can stay another night? Well, because she has this great insurance, as she has her Medicare, she has her all of her Part B, C, and D plans, and so it's the supplemental coverage, right? So yeah, she could stay because the hospital is going to get paid. And I'm looking around here like, wait a minute, it's almost Christmas Day. Why is she still in the hospital? As I digress, because I can go on and on and on about this, it's things like this why we're shifting change, right? So when we talk about, from my standpoint, I'm looking at the workforce development, or the lack thereof. And why that's concerning for me is because you guys know I come from a situation of burnout taking place. And what we're doing right now with all of these cuts, these healthcare cuts, this is going to put more strain on hospitals, and it's going to put more strain on the frontline nurses, and ultimately going to put more strain on the frontline leaders. And let's talk about that for a minute, because I don't know if when we talk about burnout, I don't know if we think about the frontline leaders, right? Because a lot of times when we think burnout, we automatically go to staff nurses, and the leaders are left out in that. Leaders burn out too. Like the nurse leaders, they also burn out. And we have to look at, why is this happening? Like, why is it happening? Because nurse leaders, they look at things from a 30,000 foot view. And I want to talk about 3 points that I made during the rally, and 3 points that I really hope that this resonates with you, because this is all a part of our policy brief. Again, you can go on to nurseshiftchange.com and you can see everything that we're talking about, all of the points that we were making during the rally, why it's so important for you guys to stand with us, because it's truly time to take a stand, because we truly have an administration that does not care. And what we need you to understand is, if these people, we voted them in office, right? So, and it's not just the presidential election. You have to look at every level. Every level of the voting process is important. And if they're not doing their jobs, and I think it was, probably Dr. McLemore who said it best, if not all of us collectively agreed and said it as well. If you are voted for someone and they're not doing their job, you can fire them. And you know how you do that? By getting to the polls and voting them out, right? I mean, you have allegedly the Christies have been pardoned. Right now, I know you're probably like, well, what does that have to do with healthcare? And I'll tell you what it is. We are in a system of have an administration that is just doing whatever they want to do, from the people who they're putting in office to the decisions that are being made that are affecting millions of people as it relates to healthcare. And what can we do about it? What can we do about it? And then, what to make matters worse, we have, and I want to talk about this for a minute. Before I shift into what I want to talk about, I want to talk about the young lady who went live on social media while she was giving out medications. Now, there's been a lot of talk about this. Apparently, she's gotten a bunch of DMs. She's gotten messages. I think people even called the board of nursing on her. Or again, some of this is alleged. I'm going to say alleged. I did see that she apparently went live today, or she went live at some point, and she did an apology message. And in my opinion, and maybe this is my mentorship hat, we can look at this as so many different angles. We need to give her grace. You know why? And I'll tell you for my reasoning is, if we can reelect and put someone back in office who doesn't need to be there, we can give grace one of our fellow nurses who made a mistake. She owned it. And in her post, she said that she's read everyone's messages. And I'm sure people have been giving her mentorship and everything else you want to call it, from the captions, from the DMs. I mean, people are making posts giving her all types of advice and how she was wrong and what she did. I'm sure she got the message. Give her grace. If the president can be forgiven, why can't she? I mean, listen, people make mistakes. She realized what she did was not the brightest thing to do. Why she did it, no one will ever know. But in a time where there's so much going on social media, we're putting everything on social media. She's not the first person to put something on social media. Let's be clear. Maybe and even to this extent, of what she did and how but people have gone live before, which is part of the problem though, right? So there's a bigger problem here. People have gone live on social media while at work. And should you be doing that? From the words of my girl Maggie Ortiz, no, you should not. I mean, but these are things that you should know. We live in a different time now. And these are things that we should know. We should not be going live on social media. When you think about HIPAA, when you think about, just listen, we need to give her grace. And we really, really need to focus on what the real issues are of what's going on in healthcare. And that's what we're doing with the Nurse Shift Change rally, right? we're really focusing on what's important in healthcare right now. And what's important is that healthcare is under attack. And interestingly, this is very interesting. There was a video that I watched, and I don't know if the video has gone viral. Someone shared it with me. And I just want to make the connection how we're giving this nurse so much grief about what she did. Again, she did apologize. Now let her go and learn from her mistake and grow from it. And let's talk about something that's more important, right? Not that that's not important, but let's look at something. A video was shared with me, and it really makes me, it almost makes me sad. And I think this is what we've all been thinking, but no one will say it, right? So there was a video that was shared, and I'm going to let you guys watch the video here. And I want to know what your thoughts are, and leave it in the comments. Leave it in the comments what your thoughts are about this video. Because this video clearly really discusses how right now, our country, it wasn't, everyone said, oh, I voted for him because of the economy. This conversation that was had clearly, it's clear, again, what we've all been thinking, but no one wants to say it. We were not ready to vote for a woman of color. But listen, and I want to know your thoughts. So listen in and let's go from there.
I think when people told you that they were voting for him because of the economy, they were lying. I think people voted for him because this country, too many people in this country couldn't even think about voting for a black female. So when but they don't want to say, they're not going to say, I'm not voting for her because she's a woman or she's black. God forbid she's both. Oh, and by the way, she's married to a Jewish guy. They're not going to say that. They're going to say, I'm voting for him because of the economy. They're liars.
Hold on. Completely agree with a lot of what you say. But when we say they're liars, we don't mean all of them. Put your best spin on. Why would
he's a good businessman. They think he was going to make us money.
A good businessman, do good for the economy, make money. Okay, smart guy. Why do good people vote for?
Oh, immigration, that doesn't really have anything to do with me. Except if you now say, well, a few citizens are going to get scooped up off the street and sent to El Salvador or to wherever, they're only going to be worried if their kid is the one who gets snatched off a college campus and winds up in jail.
And when you have the president a few weeks ago out loud in the Oval Office talking about wanting to put American citizens on airplanes and fly them down. Hello.
The homegrown.
Yeah.
I am more concerned for the next generation and the one after that. I agree that everything's going to be way too expensive. People won't be able to afford homes and all that stuff. But I fear they're not going to live in a free country.
A free country, which goes to what you were saying.
I'm not going to let that happen.
Loss of basic freedom.
Not going to let that happen.
Yeah.
I personally think the country is probably done.
Done.
I don't think it can. Tell
me what you mean by done.
Done. Democracy as we know it, I think is probably done. Because you're right. If two sides need therapy, I don't think there's a willingness on both sides to talk to each other. So it's not going to happen. And slowly, it's just going to grow farther and farther apart. I think.
And you think that's kind of on both sides, like the couple, neither couple really.
Well,
wants to
there's
sit.
extremists on both sides, and neither side wants to listen to the other. Right. And at least on one side, they're afraid if they speak their mind, what will happen to them.
Yeah.
So I don't see much of a future for the country, and
my personal feeling is that the politicians are not going to get it done, and that's why we're here. If we want to save democracy, I agree with you there, save our country. I think that people have to be willing to talk to each other. I have a really good friend from Michigan. Her family, since the first time Trump was in office, it's a big family. They're completely divided. have nothing to do with each other anymore
Because of this.
because of this.
Yeah.
You know, and they just have not found a way to be able to talk to each other.
Okay,
I mean, you have to talk.
Okay, but let's cut to the chase because life is short and none of us are in our 20s. We all got, I know I do, don't we all have people that we've kind of stopped engaging with because of politics
100%.
over the last 6, 8, all of us?
100%.
Friends, family members,
I won't talk politics around certain friends.
even family
There are
members.
people. I mean, there are people in our neighborhood across the street that we friendly with and say hello, but no desire to ever go over to their house again ever.
Because of politics.
The divide, yes.
Again, I want to know what your thoughts are, right? Because that's a lot of what we've all been thinking, but no one will say it. But you put people in a room. Now you might be saying, well, oh, that's just one room. No, that conversation is taking place all across the country right now. First, let me do this. I want you guys to think about 3 things. And I want to make the connection to starting a business. Because if you guys know, my thing is overcoming burnout. And when you overcome that burnout, what are you going to do? How are you going to get away from the environment that you're in? Why not take your skills, utilize your expertise, and start a business? The way healthcare is being attacked right now, the way DEI is being attacked right now, why not take your expertise that you know and monetize it? Don't let anyone make you feel that you're doing something wrong because you're taking your skills outside of the hospital walls. You need to know that you will have an income coming in. And it's time for nurses to really take control of their careers. Control is power. And nurses need more of it. When you think about the nurse that went live on social media and then apologized, nurses are constantly under a microscope. And one mistake, even when owned or however you want to look at it, it can truly cost you your career. In business, you still carry responsibility, but you carry it differently. You control the narrative. When you own your own business, you create the policies, you shape the future, you shape the voice, and you can show up as a full-blown human being, not just as a role. And we don't want to wait until we're burned out or until a mistake forces your hand. Start building your business now so that you can practice autonomy and your own voice. When you think about nurses who have their own business, we go live all the time with clients, right? Now, we get our patients' permission, we have consents and such that says whether or not they're going to be seen. And I know there's a difference. Whoever's listening to this probably is like, oh, that's different. But the point is, social media has really made us feel that we need to be going live and show people what you're doing. Yes, is there definitely demarcation when we talk about going live in a hospital setting, you're working for someone, but this is my point. When you want to do things like that, have your own business, right? When you have your own business, you can go live, you can talk to your clients can give you testimonials, you can share what you're doing. You could, like, for the IV hydration business, we have clients who are just happy to pose with pictures with IVs in their arms, getting their IV hydration. So when you have your own business, you can do things like this. But when you're working for someone else, you really have to mind what you're doing. When we think about nurses shifting change, patients and nurses suffer when systems are broken. And our healthcare system right now is very broken. Nursing shift change is symbolic. It's a play on words, right? Because nurses, we have shift change, right? We report for duty. So our rally, we reported for duty, right? Because it's our duty to show up. It's our duty to show up for ourselves, for our families, for our patients. It's our duty to show up. So when we say report for duty, that's exactly what you're doing. You're showing up. Broken processes trickle down. So when we have administrations, when we have healthcare cuts, whether it's Medicare, Medicaid, staffing, right? When we have to cut all of these things, and when we think about the funding that is going to be lost from hospitals, think about the healthcare workers who are going to be laid off. And as I mentioned before, who is that going to affect? That's ultimately going to affect the healthcare workers are going to lose jobs, right? And then you have the communities who are ultimately going to be affected from these job losses. So when you have broken systems, it goes back to my point, it trickles down and everyone's affected. And it really harms both the providers and the patients. Nurses are constantly adapting to broken systems. And I can speak from that because I came from a very broken system. Like one of the last places that I worked, the system was so broken. I've never worked for a place until there that was under immediate jeopardy. Like I have no, if you've worked for a hospital that was under immediate jeopardy, please put it in the comments. I want to know why. So when systems are broken, it makes you use resilience. I know people, a lot of healthcare workers don't like that word, right? Resilience, but it's true. You truly have to be resilient and you have to create your own system. And you can do that through entrepreneurship. You already solve problems daily and you're more than ready to create something better. So why not start that business and serve on your terms? Why worry? Because what's been happening since the beginning of the year has been fear has been instilled in all of us, our patients, our families, even our nurses, our healthcare workers. All this fear has been instilled. And why? And why are we allowing this fear to take over who we are, right? Why? Do something about it. Rally with us. Run for something. Don't just rally, run for something. Don't just march, run for something, right? Have a voice in what's taking place. Use your voice. It can't just be, oh, I'm not getting involved. Now is the time to get involved. Shout out to MRBNA. We were having a conversation at the beginning of one of our meetings, and one of the members said, she was like, this is not the time to, because what do they say? We don't talk about money, finances, and politics. And one of the members, we were talking about that. She was like, well, listen, all of that is out the window. This is not the time. We need to start talking about it, and we need to be having these conversations. And we do. We really, truly need to be having these conversations about money, politics, and religion if you have to, right? Like now that sentiment actually needs to go out the window right now. We're living in a do what you want to do culture. And listen, if Todd and Julie Christie, if they can allegedly be pardoned, listen, regardless of ethics, we see people in power basically doing whatever they want to do. And they're still getting grace. Meanwhile, nurses are tired and being disciplined for less. If people are getting second chances, using their influence and still walking away with deals, why are we still hesitating to launch your ideas or to give grace to one of our fellow nurses who went live on social media? It's time for nurses to really reclaim their freedom, their influence, and their income. And if not now, then when? If not now, while we have someone in office who is pro-business development, if not now, then when? So now is the time when we really need to start looking at, hey, how can I monetize my expertise? No one's saying quit your day job. What I'm saying is start to position yourself. And you guys have been hearing me say this all year, position, 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 position. Now, my word of the year is increase, but position continues to come up. It's because we have to position ourselves, whether it's managing your shift, right? Whether it's navigating mistakes or witnessing injustice. Now it's time to really take what you know, turn it into a business. And if you'd like, I'll put the link in the chat where you can book a strategy call with me and I can help you with your consulting business. And just to recap everything that we're talking about now. And I want to, and I'm actually going to end with this. Something I want nurses to think about during the rally. My focus is the workforce crisis, specifically burnout, and how that's affected by a lot of these cuts and these healthcare attacks. I'll just put it that way. I spoke on this at the rally, and 3 things that I want nurses to consider is we are 5 million strong. Whatever statistic you want to use, 5 million, whichever one in 5 nurses plan on leaving the bedside within the next 5 years. And the reasons, again, I talked about this in my LinkedIn newsletter, are burnout, moral injury, and unsafe staffing. So this is not just a workforce issue, right? This is a safe staffing crisis. And when we have cuts, when we make certain decisions and attacks on healthcare, like removing DEI, for example, we are shrinking our staff, our resources, and the ripple effect becomes clear. Not to mention, we are very underrepresented. And when we think about nurses of color, for example, we are still vastly underrepresented. So, how does DEI or removal of such affect our healthcare system? Well, we think about the representation that is not in certain rooms. And when we don't have that diversity of representation, then we cannot represent our patients or our communities effectively. It looks like this administration is doing a very good job at attacking DEI and removing from the National Museum of African American History and Culture as part of a larger effort to whitewash African American history. And it's unfortunate. And because we're such a smart country and culture, and because we're so educated, we now understand what you're doing and what it means. And it's unfortunate. So when you listen to the video, such as what I shared earlier in the episode, you get and you understand what's happening. People know what's happening, but no one wants to admit it. We want to continue to say, oh, it's the economy. We voted for him for the economy. No, you didn't. You were not ready for a woman of color, let alone a woman of color. And again, from the words from the video, a woman of color who was married to a Jew, right? The country wasn't ready for it. And it's so unfortunate. However, the country is ready to continue to enable someone who is just so hateful and spiteful. This is hate. And right now, we need to stand up for what's right and not be an enabler of hate. And how do we do that? We stand together. So I'm just going to finish with, collectively, nurses are very underrepresented. And again, and I apologize, guys, if this isn't my normal flow of how my podcasts flow. But there's just so much that I want to talk about. And I've been trying to keep the podcast to 30 minutes or so. But collectively, nurses are very underrepresented. And we need to get in the rooms. And when I say we need to get into the rooms, we need to make sure that we're in the right rooms. That means we need to be in the rooms where decisions are getting made. So we need to be in boardrooms. We need to be in hospital boardrooms. We need to be in seats in Congress. We need to be on state legislators. Listen, and I'll run. Listen, I have no problem running. If you guys will support me, I have no problem running. I will be the next Jasmine Crockett. Okay. I have no problem running. I will run. What I want you to really start thinking about and considering, and this is collectively Nurse Shift Change, we really want you to start writing your senators, writing your city councils, support nurse-led initiatives. Again, if you go over to nurseshiftchange.com, you will see there's a lot of information. You can volunteer. There's policy briefs you can download. There's even sample emails where you can write your senators and your elected officials, share your stories, sign petitions. Just get involved. Now is not the time to stay silent. We really need you to get involved. And I make the connection with business development is because I believe that nurses are great entrepreneurs. We were just not always trained on what that looks like and what we need to do. We have all of the skills, is how to apply it to a consulting business. And if that is something that you are interested in doing, reach out to me. Again, I'll make sure I'll put my strategy link in the show notes so that you can contact me. You can also head over to dljamesconsulting.com and you can definitely schedule a strategy call or consultation with me. Or you can even go right on my LinkedIn page and Dr. Lendra James, and you can schedule a strategy call from there. So that is it for today. I truly hope you got the takeaways. Takeaways are contact your legislature, support nurse-led initiatives, share your stories, sign petitions, and just speak out. There is a lot happening right now, and we need you at the Million Nurse March next year, 2026. Be ready. Follow nurseshipchange.com on LinkedIn, Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook. Just follow us all around and stay tuned because there will definitely be more. Proud to say that I am a part of this committee. Continue to follow up Nurses with Voices podcast. And there are other podcasts that you could tune into. You'll see the special editions, Nurse Shift Change podcast episodes. Go ahead and tune in. Be sure to follow and subscribe to the podcast. And until next time, make sure that you stay inspired, stay educated, and stay empowered.